skin cancer, squamous cell carcinoma, and Mohs surgery. Stay tuned. And welcome to my channel, and thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to explain what this bandage is on my neck. Many of you asked me in the comment section from the last 2 videos or so because there was no way to hide this band-aid. So I didn't want to bring it up at the time. I thought I'd just do a dedicated video on it. So the bottom line is, I had something on my neck here. I thought it was a skin tag. That's what it looked like to me. It was so tiny. So I had gone to the dermatologist, and she felt it was nothing also. But she said, she biopsies everything, so she would, take it off and do a biopsy on it. And a couple weeks went by because it takes time to get those results back. And I hadn't heard anything, so I just never gave it another thought. And then I got a call from the office saying that it came back as a squamous or squamish, however you pronounce it, cell carcinoma. And that meant it was cancerous and it would have to be removed. Now, the nurse told me this was on a Friday, about close to, 3 weeks ago or so. And she said, so you need to get that off. I can schedule you to come in next week and Dr. Bundy will, remove the cancer cells and do Mohs surgery. And I said, oh no, I will not come in next week and do that. And she was kind of taken aback. But I said, look, I gotta meet the guy that's gonna take it off. I have to have a consultation with him. I have lots of questions. I have to do my research, and I have to make sure I connect with him. Because if there's no connection for me, you're not touching me. That's just the way I am. So she was hesitant, but she said, okay. And like I said, this was on a Friday. She said, okay, come in Monday and you can talk to him. Now, I had never met him because he owns the practice and he's on Hilton Head Island, which is 12 miles from me. There is also an office here about 2 miles from me. So I always go to the office here that's near my community and see the other providers. So I went and had my consultation. I got to ask all my questions and I liked him. I mean, I have to like the person. I have to like the personality. They have to have a bedside manner. They have to be relatable, things like that. Even though he's a 5-star guy and is accredited in Mohs surgery and belongs to the American Academy of Mohs and has been doing it for over 30 years. That's not good enough for me. He's got to have the right manner, if you know what I mean. And plus, I had done my research that entire weekend. I mean, I took such a deep dive into Mohs surgery and squamous cell carcinoma. I know more about it than I want to know or I needed to know. I even looked up the doctor who invented the procedure Mohs surgery. His name is Frederick Mohs from Wisconsin, I believe. I listened to all these medical sites. I went to the American Cancer Society, American Academy of Dermatology, American Academy of Mohs, and Mayo Clinic, and Johns Hopkins. I wanted to hear from professional people. Now, I didn't understand half of what they were saying because It was very medical. They were explaining how you do Mohs and what the slides mean and the cells and all that. That was all way above my head. But I have to be well informed. So when I went in with all my questions, he was pretty impressed with the questions, and I got all my answers. And so he said, okay, we need to get that out. And he explained that they have to cut like a circle, about the size of a quarter, and then it's like a thin piece of skin, like tissue paper type skin, and cut around the area where they had removed the little bump. And that then they put it under the microscope, they freeze it, and they put dye on it for different colors, and they run it through machines, all this stuff. And that takes about an hour before they get the results to see if any more cancer cells are remaining. And so if they are, once that's done, then you go back in and he takes a bigger section, a wider margin, so that they can remove those cells, and so on and so forth. So they say plan to be there for the majority of the day, because they can take up to 5 tissue samples, or whatever they're called, do 5 Mohs surgeries. And with each one, you have to wait that hour to get the result. You're going to be there all day. Well, I was so very fortunate, and I'm so very grateful that I only had to have one. And you want to know something? I claimed it. I even said in the office that I wasn't going to have 2, 3, 4, or 5. I wouldn't have to have that. I would just have to have one about the size of a quarter. And then it would show no cancer cells. And, of course, people look at you like you're nuts. But I claimed that for myself. And I think that positive outlook and getting a word of knowledge and claiming that plays a big role. So they came back after the 1 hour and said, cancer-free. No cells showed up in that place that they had cut out. So that was it. So all I had to do was get stitched up. Now, when you get Mohs surgery, of course you're wide awake. You don't have to go in the hospital. You're not put under anesthesia. They give you a local. So it was lidocaine and epinephrine. And they just, give you shots around, and it numbs it. I never felt one single thing. And it only takes a few minutes for them to take the first layer of skin. It's the processing of the cells that take the hour. And so it was really a piece of cake and nothing to be afraid of. So after the hour, they came out and said, okay, we're ready to stitch you up. No cells found, cancer-free, and it's 98% effective, this Mohs surgery. So then I went in and they stitched me up and I came home. And I had no pain. They said, you can have some pain, discomfort. And just to take 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol. But I don't take that kind of stuff, and I didn't take any, and I really didn't need it. Yeah, it was a little, it smarted a little bit, stung or burned or something like that, but nothing that you couldn't handle. So they have to do stitches on the inside and then on the outside. Now the ones on the inside will dissolve, but I think it takes 4 to 6 weeks for the inside ones to dissolve. And the outside ones you have to keep for 14 days. and then they'll take those off. And the whole time you have to keep it covered. The first, I think 3 days, I couldn't get it wet in the shower, and I had to leave it bandaged in a compression bandage that they had put on me. Then after that, I put some kind of cream on it. It was a prescription, and then I could just use a bandage. And then I only had to do that 3 days, and then from there on in, it was just putting Vaseline or Aquaphor on it and keeping it covered with a bandage. So, you know, when you hear things like skin cancer, whether it's basal cell or squamous cell, it can kind of freak you out. But if you know enough and if you catch it early, it really is nothing to be too concerned about. Now, melanoma is a different story, but they can do Mohs on melanoma skin cancer as long as it's caught in the early stages and hasn't gone into your bloodstream and your lymph nodes and all that. Now, they said to rest for the first 48 hours. Well, you know, I didn't do that. I mean, when I came home that day, I mean, what would you rest from? You know, you weren't put to sleep or anything. And so I just did my normal thing. And I wasn't allowed to bend over. I wasn't allowed to tie my shoes. I wasn't allowed to pick anything up. And I wasn't allowed to really move much up in this upper area, because even if you move your arm, it pulls on the skin here. Or if you're turning your head left to right, or, you know, moving around and having a little bit of step, it pulls on this. And the skin on your neck is very, very thin and fragile. And so you can bust those stitches open, especially on the inside, pretty easily. And they need a long time to get strong. In fact, I think you only have 5% of the strength in the tissues underneath after 4 weeks. So it really takes a good 6 months or longer for it to be pretty solid. So I just did my thing, but I moved without moving my head and this arm. I could move this arm, but I kept this arm at my side, like in my pocket. So I would walk through the house swinging this arm, and I walked slower and I kind of shuffled. You know, I tried not to bounce myself around. And then the next day, I ran the sweeper. It was the stick broom, so it wasn't heavy. And I just used this arm and just, you know, ran the sweeper like this. I never moved this. I didn't turn my head left or right. And of course, I walked the very first day, and it was the same thing. I kept this hand straight down in my pocket, and I used this arm, and I didn't take big strides or go real fast. I just kind of, you know, took smaller steps and just kind of went along to not do anything that would break those stitches. And I couldn't turn my head left or right either, so, you know, but that was okay. So it did not interrupt my life in any way. I was able to do what I normally do, just do it differently and do it very, very carefully and be very, very safe. I had to keep ice on it for the first 3 or 4 days because it's very typical to swell and to have bruising. I never had any swelling or any bruising. I had it done on November the 12th at 7:30 in the morning, and today is the 24th, I think, or 23rd. And by the time you see this video, which will be on Friday, which I think is the 28th, these stitches will be out. They're coming out on Wednesday, the 26th at 8 o'clock in the morning. So these will be gone. I won't have to wear a Band-Aid. I don't think I'll have to. I'll wait and see what they say. But again, the stitches beneath the skin are going to take a long time. And I'll still have to be careful, but I know I'll have a scar, which that doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm way beyond that kind of vanity. Now, maybe if it was on my face, I'd feel differently, but it's right here at the base of my neck. In fact, it's probably will just blend in with the big wrinkle, the line. I'll have 2 or 3 going across my neck. It'll probably just be folded up in there, so who cares? The reason I wanted to share all this with you all is because skin cancer can creep up on you. Now, those of you who know me and have been following my channel since the beginning, you know I get a skin check 4 times a year. Nobody's required to get it that often, but I do. And I had just gone in August, I think it was August 16th, and had a full body skin check. You know, they take that magnifying thing and from head to toe, they go over every spot on your entire body, including your head and your feet and everything. Nothing was there, even that little thing that they had to take off. And by October, towards the end of October, maybe the 18th or something, that little thing came out, and I thought it was a skin tag. So in just, let's see, 2 months, there it was. And if I had just ignored it and thought, it looks like a skin tag to me, it could have been a lot more serious, because basal cell is on the surface, and that rarely, in fact, I don't think it ever goes into your system, your lymph nodes and your bloodstream and everything, or it's very rare. Squamous cell grows down. So that can, and once it grows down, then it's going to get in your bloodstream and your lymph nodes and things like that. So, you know, please, I caution all of you to pay attention to your skin. If something comes up that you haven't seen before, even if you think it's nothing, it does not hurt to have it checked. It's so important. So even for someone who goes as often as I do, look what happened. But you know, all the sun damage that we accumulated back when we were kids and there was no sunscreen and we lived in the sun, it's going to come out. You know, this won't be my only one. The older we get, the more this stuff comes to the surface. So, you know, I could get 2 or 3 or 4 other squamous cells or even basal cell. But that's just going to be part of life because I'm 73, and as I continue to age, more will come up. But that's okay, because I go and get my skin checked several times a year. The stitches, the scar, whatever you want to call it, I'd say it's probably an inch long. I think they said I had 9 stitches in it. I will insert a picture, but I'm given a trigger warning. Honestly, I don't think it looks bad at all. It's not scary looking. It's a straight line because they cut in a circle, but then they have to pull that skin together, you know, to stitch it, because how do you stitch a round hole? So it's just like a straight line. Doesn't look bad. It's not bloody. It's none of that. But for anyone that wants to see the size of scar that you may have if you have something removed when it's caught early, trigger warning, I'll show the photo now. And look away if you don't want to see it. Okay, so anybody that looked, as you can see, it's not bad at all. Have any of you had any type of a skin cancer removed, whether it was basal cell, squamous cell, or melanoma, or anything like that? If you have, let me know in the comments section. And I pray that they caught it early and you got it off and there were no ill effects from it. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving yesterday. I'm filming this before Thanksgiving because I will be having a lot of company that week. So I had to film it early, and that's why I still have the stitches. But by the time you see the video, they'll be gone. And I'll show you the scar without the stitches in a future video. So that's it for today, but you know I'm going to leave you with an inside beauty tip. My inside beauty tip comes from Romans 11:1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith is such a powerful thing in our lives, and without it, well, I just don't know what I would do. Now, that doesn't mean if we have complete, unwavering faith and trust in God that everything's always going to turn out okay, because sometimes it doesn't. But that doesn't shake or change our faith, because God gave us so many promises. And just because something doesn't turn out the way we hope for, it doesn't mean that anything else changes. We still have life. We still have His promises. He will always be with us. He will give us the strength and the courage to get through whatever we have to get through, to face whatever battle we have to face. I cannot stand here and tell you that if you claim something, that it automatically is going to be true and happen. I can't, because God's will is always done. But when you have faith and it is very strong, it gives you the feeling to claim a victory, to claim that everything will be okay. And even if it isn't, you're still okay, because there's still so much more ahead of you. So just keep in mind that faith and trust in God is the only way to make it through life and all the things, all the trials and situations that we are going to come up against, because faith is the cornerstone of every single spiritual journey. I thank you so much for being here today. I truly, truly do appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya.